Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and excited everyone who is joining us out there today as we have Jorge Ganoza and three great silver analysts here. Earlier this week, we did have some news from Fortuna Silver as they increased the mineral estimate at their Sunbird resource in the Séguéla project. Also advancing two new prospects at Barana and Badior and getting some new results from Kestrel. So fortunate to be joined today by Jorge Ganoza of Fortuna Silver. Jorge, great to have you on in here, and congratulations on the news.
Thank you, Chris, and glad to be here again with your panel. And yeah, we had an important publication of results. Basically, the Sunbird deposit continues to grow, and importantly as well, we continue to make additional discoveries, like we also reported in the news release, in the larger property package, right? Badior, Kestrel, Barana. So all of those are emerging prospects that come to complement our exploration pipeline, right?
Well, it's exciting to see what you found there in the time since you've taken over the Séguéla asset. And joining us also on the call today are Dave Kranzler, Investment Research Dynamics, Peter Spina of SilverSeek and GoldSeek, and Chris Marchese of SilverSeek and the Morgan Report. So I guess the first question, Jorge, could you talk a little bit about the increase that you have to the Sunbird resource as you've been continuing the drilling there, and have an update, which I will pull up on the screen, and perhaps you could talk about the increase that you've seen there.
Yes, and before I go into the details of the increase, I want to bring something into perspective, right? Right now, the mineral reserve that supports our mine plan and schedules is based on 5 deposits: Antenna, Boulder, Agouti, Ancien, and Kula. Sunbird was a discovery made less than 2 years ago, and in over this time we've been able to take it from a blind discovery basically to what we reported in this latest news release: 279,000 ounces of gold in indicated category, ready to be migrated to reserves basically. And additional to that, 500,000 ounces of gold in inferred categories, right? And mineralization remains wide open. So, and prior to Sunbird, we went through the same discovery process with another deposit, Kula, which we have since then incorporated into the mineral reserve and mine schedule. So Kula is currently in the reserve, is part of those 5 mineral deposits or bodies that make the mine plan and the feasibility. And then we have Sunbird now, and Sunbird, by the way it looks, is going to be the largest deposit of them all. And that's a good plan view you're showing there, where we can see where the processing plant would be located. And then you have Antenna, Kula, Agouti, Boulder, and Ancien. Those are the 5 deposits that make the existing reserve and mine plan. And Sunbird, right under our noses there in the that first inner circle, that 5-kilometer radius around our plant, where we have been able to make the discovery and expand it, and mineralization remains open. I am of the opinion that Sunbird will be the largest deposit in the inventory today. And on top of that, we are making additional discoveries, like pointed out here, on Barana and Badior. We control 30 kilometers of prime exploration ground in this prolific camp. I call it a camp because, this is not one deposit. What we have is a 30-kilometer stretch under our control of a most prolific camp with the right structures and the right rocks.
Okay, and we'll turn it over to questions now. Dave, would you like to begin there?
You know, this is kind of not specific to the Sunbird resource increase, but I was just, I mean, I'm probably putting the cart ahead of the horse here, but I was just curious, when you actually start operating the mine, how do you decide which deposits you'll take the ore from first?
We'll start with the highest grade. That's an easy one. We'll start with the highest grade. You know, currently in the plan, we are scheduling Antenna and Ancien, which are the higher grade deposits in the mineral reserve. Sunbird as a resource today is higher grade than what we have at Antenna. But it's not in the mineral reserve yet. There's still exploration and engineering work we have to do, carry on Sunbird to incorporate it. But we are starting with Antenna and Ancien.
Okay, now actually, just to get back to the resource upgrade itself, Chris, do you happen to have the map that shows the side view of Sunbird? Yeah, that one. So I just, two more quick questions, let the other guys go. On the resource on the increase in the resource, you've got 279,000 indicated at 2.74 grams on average per ton, and then 506,000 at 3.74 grams per ton inferred. I mean, should we assume that as you do infill drilling on the inferred and it gets moved up, that the grade will decrease, or could it stay the same?
You know, that's variable, right? And I wouldn't make that assumption as of yet, no. It depends. It will vary, you know. Sometimes the grade increases a bit, sometimes it drops a bit. Once we, and it's really a function of density of drilling, right? So I wouldn't make that assumption immediately, right? No. That grade will drop. No, I just like I wouldn't make one that, you know, grade would increase. I think what you're seeing here, and as a keen observer, you're seeing, sorry about that. You're seeing that the grade is lower in the indicated, but that can just be a function of where that inferred resource was. Perhaps that grade is matching the indicated grade is matching what we had in inferred for that area. Right?
Okay. And then, I mean, I really started to get my head around the significance of this deposit. Several months ago, I went through this map, a similar map to this. It was, you know, with less drill results out with Carlos. And, you know, it just kind of feels to me like this could be somewhere at least in the 1 to 2 million ounce deposit range. But what Carlos did is he stepped me through the dark circles and the empty circles and just kind of expanded my mind in terms of the potential for mineralization continuity and expansion on this deposit. Could you maybe kind of walk the audience through those small circles and the significance of them and the significance of their placement?
Yes. You know, mineralization tends to have a plunge in all of the deposits that's quite consistent. So where we point here to where mineralization is open, just by the fact that we are contouring, and the way the contouring works is that we see mineralization closing in terms of the colors that you see here with the grays, that yellowish cream, and the hotter colors, the purples, right? But that's why we include these arrows showing the trend where mineralization remains open. You know, some of those areas we have holes like SGDD 106 with 15 meters at 6.5 grams, hole SGDD 110 with 7 meters at 10 grams, and we also have 105 with 15 meters at 2 grams, right? So, you know, from the exploration perspective, what we want to see is that structure remains open and that we continue hitting grade. And that's precisely what we're seeing here, right? So for me, the key takeaway is that the resource is the size it is today is just because the fact that we're not completed with the drilling, right? We need to continue pursuing the continuity of mineralization down deep on the rake of the deposit, right? So you know, it's quite exciting. Sunbird was a discovery. Sunbird didn't exist 24 months ago, right? So you know, to see how it is, and this supports or strong conviction. When we went into the transaction, we just saw tremendous potential on the property package, and this is materializing that view. So for us, it's quite rewarding, right? We all know that when we made the Roxgold acquisition, it was controversial, and there were some legitimate concerns on the part of our investors with respect to a move into West Africa. But you know, it's great geology, great place to work, and our thesis on the deposit is materializing. It's playing out as we thought, and that's very rewarding for us.
And Jorge, you mentioned that you are continuing to drill. Could you perhaps update us on the timeline going forward of how the drilling program is progressing and any key timelines or dates to watch out for?
What you should look into 2023 is the continuity of a very robust budget, right? So our exploration budget in 2022 for Séguéla was $9 million. It was our largest exploration capital allocation in the portfolio. In 2022, we had a $30 million exploration budget, out of which $9 million were allocated to Séguéla, which is our highest value opportunity today. And also let me help bring this into context. You know, traditionally, when you see mines going into construction or companies taking mines or projects into construction, you usually slow down the exploration because, you know, your focus is on the delivery of the construction. We decided to keep the construction and the exploration on parallel tracks and continue investing heavily on exploration because it's tremendously rewarding, the drilling at Séguéla. So in 2023, we are set to deliver first gold in May, June. But again, we're going to continue pushing ahead aggressively with exploration. I expect to see in 2023 an even higher capital budget allocated to exploration in Séguéla, you know, north of $10 million, right?
Okay, well, that will certainly be exciting. Obviously, it's gone well with the drilling so far, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to what we'll see in 2023. Peter, would you like to take it from there, and any questions that you might have for Jorge?
Sure. So for the next steps for Sunbird, you're going to continue to do infill drilling, go at depth, test out different targets, do another resource update. Was that for Q1?
Yes, Peter. So now we have to start moving into infill drilling to expand the inferred resource movement to indicated, measured, and indicated, so we can incorporate it into a reserve. No, we have an initial indicated resource of 279,000 ounces. We want to see that figure at least 500,000, right? So where a priority is infill drilling, and parallel to that, continue seeking the expansion of the deposit as we just discussed. That's just talking about Sunbird, right? That's the Sunbird program has those two components: infill plus continue exploring to find the true extent of that deposit. And we'll talk about this later, but parallel to that, we also have a drill rig testing all of those other prospects where we already have exciting high-grade hits, right?
Excellent. So the deposit looks, you have an open pit constraint currently, and then it looks like below that you're hitting some nice high grade targets. So this is turning into an underground potential as well.
Very good observation, because our first pass estimation is using that pit constraint model. If you ask me on my experience, I don't envision we're gonna be pushing the pit as deep as you see here. I think we're gonna be going underground much sooner.
Okay.
When we start doing the real detail mining work, that is what's gonna follow as we increase the indicated and measured resources through infill drilling in 2023. This will move into the mine planning team, and what you will see is probably a smaller pit and an earlier underground case, right?
Okay. Excellent.
All righty, Chris, would you like to ask some questions today?
Yeah, definitely. Well, congratulations on the updated resource. It's pretty impressive, the Séguéla project as a whole, and it's just as impressive that it's on time and, more importantly, on budget. I do have some questions about Sunbird. Once you're done with infill drilling, upgraded resources to reserves, would the focus be on the central and southern high-grade shoots, the mineralization between them, and I believe the more southerly high-grade shoots are open at depth?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what are you envisioning, maybe next year in terms of your top expansionary exploration?
We need to generate more information, no? So that's why the aggressive drilling, and we need to give better, again, tighten the drilling where the inferred is, so we can move it on to indicated and pass it on then to the mine planners. And then with the exploration drilling, just trying to give form to trends or the distribution of those shoots that you were talking about. But it's just at this stage generating more information, right? That's the process. That is the process, and identifying those higher grade shoots within the greater deposit of Sunbird and whatnot. But it's been, again, probably more like a year and a half since the discovery was made. So to be at total ounces of 750,
very nice.
It's very nice, very encouraging, and remains open, right? So we still have to learn a lot, and waste no time in pushing whatever we can into reserve so we can incorporate into the mine schedule. This is has the potential to enhance the economics of the project significantly, right?
Yeah. And then I have another question. I know it's early days on Kestrel, but in the press release, you said something about the geological setting and the similarities to Kula, which is high grade, and Sunbird as well. Can you, maybe provide more color on that?
Yes. What we tend to see in all of these deposits is a structural pattern. I don't want to get into the details of the geology, and but we identify these dilation zones where we're getting just flow being captured and concentrated, and all of these Kestrel Barana fit the model, right? And at Kestrel we have a good hole with about 3.5 meters and 20 grams gold. And then we have a second hole with 5.5 with 4. So we need to pursue all of that and further understand. Some of these deposits might end up being just a small blob of mineralization, and some others might turn up to be another Sunbird or antenna, right? But that's for us to find out. The exciting thing here is that we are generating options and opportunities. There is no shortage of drilling ideas. Sometimes in a project, you start running out of ideas, right? Or things to pursue, or they become more higher risk from the perspective of exploration, right? Here, no. Whenever you look at how prolific the system is within the 30 kilometers. That's why I'm trying to get away from calling the Séguéla mine, saying the Séguéla mine. Is more the Séguéla camp. It's a camp over 30 kilometers with multiple deposits, right? The Séguéla mine, I think, oversimplifies the picture and doesn't allow to grasp the true magnitude of this.
Okay, now this is my last question. It has to do with the Séguéla camp. So right now, and per the feasibility study, throughput or processing will be about 3.75 thousand tons per day. Where do you, I mean, some of these hits are pretty wide, so I would think you would be able to increase that going forward, especially if you hit underground at depth. So what is your medium and longer term vision for Séguéla in terms of what do you think the potential is?
First, we have built in our design for the processing facility a 40% expansion. So the process will be get it going in mid-year, then test the machine, test the engine, right? To see how far we can really, push or the nominal capacity of our established infrastructure, and once we're there, and I think that's going to be relatively quickly, so at the end of 2023, this coming year, we should have a good sense of, is it 3,750, 3,900? We'll get a good sense of that, and then work out immediately, I believe, in based on all this pipeline of new resources coming in. The expansion to 40%. So I'm already talking with the team, and as you can imagine, a construction coming close to the end, the project team is already thinking, okay, what next, right? Where, I had a session with our project director, and he was like, well, I want to talk about, my team and my construction manager, my engineering manager, and my project controller, what should I tell them? Are we gonna start looking at a project in South America or where? Or, and I'm like, your focus will be more Séguéla. Because I don't think Séguéla is gonna, again, I think my expectation would be that we can immediately ramp up and work on the 40% expansion and beyond, because all of that is being supported by exploration success. So the message to the team was, stay calm, and because I think there is more Séguéla in that team's immediate life.
That's great to hear. I mean, I know when you guys acquired Rock's Gold, I was like, Séguéla is the best project in your portfolio now. The upside is, pretty significant.
We looked at a lot of things, and for us, stepping across the Atlantic was not something we took lightly, right? We knew it was going to be controversial, but comparing to what we were seeing on LATAM at that point in time, this was by far, and we looked for all the way from Eastern Canada to Western Canada, coming down through Nevada, further down through Mexico, Central America, Colombia, Peru. We looked at a lot, believe me, before taking that step. And the exploration potential, the jurisdiction, and the predictability that we, this will bring into the pipeline an asset that is, today we have 10 years in reserves, today, without Sunbird. Sunbird is not in the inventory. So with Sunbird, we can start thinking about, an improved 10 years or 15 years, And then you have Kestrel, Barana, Badior, Gabbro North, and 25 other prospects that we're still to to drill, right? So I think certainly a flagship asset and one that's going to be producing for many years to come.
Thanks for answering my questions. Those great responses, what I wanted to hear.
Jorge, you've mentioned how there's still a lot of other prospects out there that can be potentially explored. Any of them in particular that you're excited about or looking forward to or have a good feeling about so far?
You know, geologically, something we are if you put the section, not the section, but the plan view, that will help us expand on that question, because, you know, we have a lot of, you see a lot of the dots that we have there, like P1 and a lot of those, like Winnie, a lot of those that there are many other dots that don't have a name right next to it, right? Like, and so the entire area is dotted with some of those, right? Like P3 and many others. So, you know, I don't want to tell you I'm excited about Winnie or P1. What I'm excited about is that if you see where Kula and Antenna are located, there is an inflection, right? You see an inflection there. So the previous thinking was that, well, that inflection, that structural inflection, is that has allowed the dilation and mineralization to be focused there. So the working idea was everything is going to be limited to that inflection zone and whatnot. So through work, we're showing that as you go further north and further south, getting away from that central inflection zone, you're still seeing good wide mineralization, like the holes at Badior, 7 meters with 10 grams, 8 meters with 12 grams gold, 2 meters with 11 grams gold. And yeah, so I conceptually, I think that I'm not excited about one particular prospect. I'm excited about the fact that we're finding, outside of what we consider the original controls, excellent mineralization. So that opens a world of opportunities, right?
And has this met what you expected when you purchased the asset? Has it been more than you expected, or how does it compare to what you thought you were getting into back a year and a half ago?
You know, when we came in to the acquisition, the mine production plan didn't have Kula, so it only had 4 deposits in the mine plan when we first started assessing this. At the time, Kula, Sunbird didn't exist, and Kula was at the same stage where Sunbird is today. And you can see Kula there in the plan view right next to the plant, right, due west from the plant. Sorry, due east. So when we did the diligence, we said, you know, this has tremendous potential still to be tested, and there are likely many things still to be discovered. So, but that was a geologic assessment that we made, and that's how you create value in this business, right? You have to take a geologic risk, because if everything is discovered and in a pre-feasibility or feasibility study and in a financial model, what's the value that we bring to the table, right? The value in this business is created through discovery. No, not by acquiring something where everything is already in a feasibility study. I mean, you don't need a geologist for that, right? So here it's very rewarding to us to see that, you know, Kula came into the mine plan, Sunbird emerged. We're seeing Barana, Badior, P13, Kestrel, Gabro North, all of these new things emerging. So that's adding value under our thesis, and it's very rewarding. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's meeting and exceeding my expectations. Absolutely.
Well, it's nice to see when things go that way, and certainly has been impressive what you found so far. Peter and Dave, did either of you have any further questions?
I mean, I have a general question. You have a lot of prospects on this property, but there's a lot of excitement in this part of the world, West Africa and Ivory Coast seems to be having some sort of a mini gold rush, a lot of interest and investments. So, do you look outside of this project and consider other opportunities in this area, or is this just too much to? There's so much to focus on here that it's not really worth it at this time.
No, in this business, you always have to keep alert, and particularly in a jurisdiction like you pointed out, that's where it's a hot spot today for discovery and growth for many companies, and we're established there, so we're taking advantage of our infrastructure, our knowledge. So we're looking at other prospects not only in CDI, in the Ivory Coast, but also near neighbors. So it's not just work at Séguéla, it's work in other prospects. We have Diana and other prospects that we don't talk much about because still early days, and you know, we're doing proof of concept and testing ideas. As we see things emerge, we'll of course start talking more about them, right? But we have other properties in CDI where we have budgets and work being carried in 2022 and into 2023.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting to see all these discoveries take place, and I'm also curious with your past work. I mean, you're in 5 different countries and 3 continents. How has it been as you come, I guess, from a multi-mine now into multi-continent, and you know, adding West Africa now into the portfolio? How has it been integrating Roxgold, that process, and yeah, I guess working in a new area, part of the world is how do you like working in West Africa?
That's an excellent question, because not many people ask that, and that's a good question for management. One of the things we valued, in the Roxgold acquisition was the fact that we were not only acquiring assets. Through the M&A process, we looked at a lot of things, and sometimes there were assets you identify assets you like in the hands of management teams where you immediately identify just different visions with respect to how you create value in the business, right? For example, and nothing wrong with those other different visions or strategies, everybody has their own strategy, but there are groups that I just want to sell, right? I just want to, put a few holes, make the research look pretty, but it will be someone else's problem. And usually when you work like that, you become terribly aggressive with some of your assumptions and your arm waving and things like that, right? So it's as a company looking to make acquisitions, you really have to be careful with that. So we looked at a lot, and one of the things that I value the most with the Roxgold acquisition was that the assets were good, and the team. Although we are culturally different and whatnot, that was an Australian-based team and whatnot, we had similar visions on how you create value in the business. Mm-hmm. So integrating with the Roxgold team has been quite good and even rewarding in many sense. We have integrated into the Fortuna's senior management structure 3 senior executives from Roxgold. Our senior vice president of sustainability came through Roxgold acquisition. Our senior vice president exploration came through Roxgold. And of course, the chief operating officer for West Africa came from Roxgold, right? So we have really integrated, and the integration has gone really well. And I think it shows. That was a legitimate concern on the part of investors when we made the acquisition. How are these guys going to be able to manage a business in West Africa and whatnot? How successful are you going to be with a complex integration with the geographic dispersion that the company now has? The company this year has been performing really well, or share performance has been stellar so far. And that is not on the back of any one single positive surprise, right? It's just on the back of good, solid delivery over 4 quarters on the production, on the cost, and on the construction, and on the discovery front. And you could not achieve that. You could not achieve that if you don't have a good, cohesive team. So I think I can tell you that the integration has been good. But I'm not just telling you that, it's supported by the numbers, right?
So, I mean, that's kind of an interesting insight that you didn't just acquire this project, you acquired the management team. It's a complementary
a platform for business. I acquired a platform for business.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you. Yeah, it's a nice insight, and it's great to hear that it's integrated so well, and it's makes sense when you have similar visions and then the complementary teams. That's just they fit well together.
And it's easier said than done, no? But early on we saw, hey, you know, we can see eye to eye with these guys, and we have similar visions, we share similar values. You know, yeah. They were developing assets for the long term, right? And that's a very different philosophy than making a discovery to sell, right?
And I one more question about, I guess, developing this, the asset, the mine. The costs have stayed within budget, on time, with high inflation everywhere, and other companies seeing, you know, from energy price increases to labor to commodity increases. So how have you been able to manage that? It's quite a feat, I think.
Yes, and that's another good, solid question. I attribute the success to a few factors. 3 or 4. First, the jurisdiction. Ivory Coast is a great place to build a mine. You find the pools of knowledge, the expertise. You find contractors, subcontractors that are very well exercised on mine excavations, electromechanical and piping for mining, you know, all of that. You have all the equipment providers, all the service providers. Over the last years, as West African mining has expanded, the service cluster, no, the industry clusters have expanded and become quite robust. So there is good competition, knowledge, and that helps get effective pricing, right? High productivity. So one is the jurisdiction. Second, we selected good partners out of those pools, right? Like Copodium is our EPC, the Simon is our concrete, is for contractor for concrete and earth movement and so on. No, all of those are companies that, you know, years of experience delivering mining projects throughout the region. And third, good planning. When we made the closed acquisition of Roxgold in mid-2021, the Roxgold team was really ready to launch into construction. And we said, no, stop, let's make a pause, and let's revisit our capital numbers in your feasibility study in the context of today's inflationary environment. So we took 4 months to do that review. 3-4 months to do that review. As an outcome, we took the capital budget from 140x million to 173, right? So it's not that we have been immune to inflation. It's that we were able to budget properly and capture those inflationary pressures and plan financially for them. So there have been no surprises. No, we're not saying, oh, we've been surprised by inflation. No, I mean, last year we were seeing this happening. So all of these things were factored in, and we did our engagement with the contractors in a way that we're locking prices in case even those inflationary expectations get away from us. So we capped the risk on inflation, but we brought $25 million additional dollars from the feasibility study to the construction decision, purely on inflation. Right? So it's not that we just been immune. We've been good at capturing and planning financially for that. And last but not least, Roxgold had a quite cohesed construction team, guys who have worked together for 2-3 constructions, not only in Roxgold, but in other companies. And we retained that team and we have empowered them. And they're doing a heck of a job, right?
No, that's excellent. That's really nice to see that they wanted to continue on with the company and they're attracted and empowered, like you say, to do that. And it's really it's a testament to that part of the world too, that you can build such a nice operation at those costs and on budget, on time. So yeah, it's an eye opener, and I think it seems to be getting more and more interest. So I'm really more fascinated with this.
I always make it's not necessarily a fair comparison, but a recent construction that it's been very successful and it's a great deposit is Fruta del Norte, Lundin Gold's mine in Ecuador. We're building a 3,700 ton per day mine and mill for $173 million. Lundin Mining at Fruta del Norte a couple years ago delivered the same 3,500 tons per day underground mine, different part of the world, different topography and whatnot, but in a non-mining jurisdiction. Ecuador is not a mining jurisdiction, right? CDI, we can call it a mining jurisdiction. And Lundin Gold did an excellent job delivering a project on time, on budget. But you know what was the budget to deliver that? You remember?
Yeah, 30. Yeah, no,
$690 million to deliver something similar in throughput and size to what we're delivering in CDI for 173. Right?
Yeah.
Again, it's not necessarily apples to apples because they have rugged topography, high rainfall, and that makes things more challenging. I would not. But going from 173 to 690 is a big leap. So I think that speaks to what you were asking, right? I mean, we're building effectively, efficiently, on time, on budget, keeping the cost, the capital low compared to what we're delivering, and that's just because the jurisdiction, right? Some people ask me about going to the same rocks in Guyana. If we put the two continents together, you can see Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname with similar geology as is the broken half of the Ivory Coast. But you know what? You can have nice deposits there, but in the middle of the rainforest, right next to a massive river that floods the plains, and in CDI and West Africa, we don't have that. We have the same geology, but without the tropical rainforest, without that precipitation, without those massive rivers. So it's a good place for mining.
And just to add to that, I would make the argument that West Africa is less risky from a jurisdictional standpoint than Central America.
Yeah. I mean, West Africa, when we talk about Africa, that's a very gross generalization. Then we talk about West Africa, and in West Africa we have 5 countries, right? 6 countries. So we operate in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso today is challenged with security issues, right? So we're not looking to do more capital deployment outside of our existing operation, Yaramoko, in Burkina Faso today, because security has deteriorated dramatically, right? But neighboring Ivory Coast has offers all the conditions that you're required to develop successfully mines for the long term. A good, consistent democratic record, a president and a culture that's pro-business. And the same with Senegal and whatnot. these are, of course, emerging countries, or I don't think it's politically correct anymore to call countries third world countries, but I come from a third world country, so I can say it.
Hey, we live in the United States in a third world country, so
I almost said something. Yeah.
Don't get Peter going. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, the president.
Yeah, I mean, I feel safer and more comfortable in a more pro-business atmosphere in a former communist country than in the United States these days, which is just, it's unbelievable. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the last question I have, Jorge, about a month ago, you guys mentioned that 83% complete with the construction, everything so far on time and on budget. Anything that keeps you up at night in terms of completing that remaining progress, or things still going on track and not too many significant hurdles to complete that?
A construction is always a pile of headaches, right? So I'm not gonna say that everything is perfect and running. No, there are lots of issues, lots of things that get out of the script, but I call them management headaches, right? Nothing that's derailing, but we had a stoppage a couple of days ago because we one of the contractor unions, and we had to deal with that, help the contractor and whatnot. So we had issues with customs getting some of the steel on time and not challenge or on time delivery, right? There are lots of headaches, but I call them management headaches, right? They don't they get to here and they're dealt with, right? So we're still the team is, has a lot of in its hands, but the discussion is changing from construction to mine readiness, for example, to operational readiness. So that's gratifying to see, right? So now we're more talking about, our discussions revolve more not about placement of concrete and arrival of equipment packages. It's more implementing the org chart, making sure that we have all the positions in place for the operation, making sure that we're starting to do in the coming days infill drilling, for initial production. So the discussion, as the project evolves, of course, the discussion is changing. We're now more on getting ready to turn it on and run it. And that's exciting, and that's where most of our attention is geared towards now, right? Operational readiness, making sure that we have first fills, everything is there, spare parts, consumables to get it going, right people in right place, right position, all of that.
Okay, well, that is certainly good news, and nice seeing the pictures that you guys have up there. Certainly puts into perspective just how much progress you have made there. So, Chris, Dave, and Peter, any final questions today for Jorge?
No, I want to go buy more stock. It's still over $1 below book value. This thing is cheap.
Yeah.
It's a true value stock.
It is. I think everyone knows my position on Fortuna because I've been quite vocal about it. It's my largest position, and I find it quite undervalued. As an investor, those photos, the construction really is helpful. It really helps to connect us to the project and to the company. So I really appreciate that as an investor, to be able to get those updates and to know, to see visually too. It's great to to connect with the company more like that. So I really like what Fortuna is doing now to provide that to investors.
Yeah, and we have an exciting milestone coming these days with the interconnection of power to the grid. And that's a milestone, and we look forward to announce it and share it when it happens. And that's an immediate milestone. It's the second time in my years that I have to develop a mine where the national power line runs right through the project. That
Wow.
makes life very easy. It has happened before. Or San Jose mine, the mine is located right, the deposit is located right under the main transmission power line. And this one is the same. So we'll have access to cheap power and right at the doorstep. So that's a milestone. That interconnection is a milestone, and we're working on that currently.
Well, congratulations to everything that you have accomplished there, and also appreciate you just making some time to join us, answer some questions today. So thank you, Jorge from Fortuna Silver, and also thank you to our analysts, Chris Marchese of SilverSeek and the Morgan Report, Peter Spina of GoldSeek and SilverSeek, and Dave Kranzler of Investment Research Dynamics. Hope everyone at home had fun watching that today and found it helpful, and appreciate you being here. And we'll look forward to doing this again soon.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for the opportunity to join you.
All right.